The reunion. My wife been having an emotional affair for the last 2 years with a close friend from HS who was an exchange student from Germany. They dated briefly before settling in as good friends. They fell out of contact for about 15 years before reconnecting 2 years ago, after I set up a Facebook account for my 20-year reunion. He lives in Germany. I knew of their contact and frequent emails, but I didn't discover the close nature of their friendship until 1.5 years ago when I found some early emails she had printed out and hid. Much to my surprise, we were high school sweethearts and are each other's only serious relationship and physical partners. I discovered that my wife considered OM her first love and over the years had thoughts of what if she and other man had ended up together. So, I confronted her and she claimed that I misinterpreted her emails, they were just friends. And thus, began the long battle as to whether she was doing anything wrong and whether it is an emotional affair. I immediately started snooping in her email to find out what was going on. I found things that I didn't like but no really convincing evidence of an affair. Between the emails and my wife's behavior, I viewed her relationship with other men as being more than friends but less than lovers. We have since gone through cycles of fighting over the issue. I pushed for no contact a year ago, but she refused as she insisted there was no threat. As I didn't feel I had strong enough evidence, I did not want to risk her resentment if I forced her to give up something valuable that she truly felt was okay. The problem I have had is that their relationship is not a full-blown, out of control, 1,000 texts per a day sort of affair. They have kept things right in the murky area between clearly okay and an obvious affair. They aren't discussing sexual interest in each, they don't express romantic love for each other, and my wife didn't become more distant from me after starting her correspondence with other man. More on our relationship below. The single biggest topic they discuss is other man's romantic pursuits. Here's what I do know. Even though I have strenuously objected to her friendship, she continues it anyway with the closed doors just shut more tightly. My wife built a wall around the relationship. Email is always kept logged off. Her responses to my questions are always to downplay frequency and level of connection. She reacts defensively whenever I question the topic or her honesty on the matter. Mostly lies of omission, and just a few lies of commission that I have caught anyway. They share lots of intimate details, feeling, hopes, etc. Even she admits that they are close confidants and best friends. They have zero boundaries on what they will discuss. She tells him everything and doesn't confide in me at all anymore. I'll try to answer the questions asked and clarify a few things. OM is not married and does not have a serious girlfriend. He has someone he keeps around for benefits but does not have long-term interest in her. As I mentioned, the single biggest topic discussed in emails with my wife is his pursuit of the perfect companion. My wife has a very close girlfriend with whom she has been best friends since middle school. My wife is currently visiting GF and NM and returns home tomorrow. I have read Not Just Friends, Walls, Windows analogy is great, and asked my wife to read it, which I don't think she has done. I should have demanded that she read it, though I doubt it would have convinced her of anything. I have explained the basic concepts to her to no avail. She feels that she is in control and that the friendship is exactly like what she would have if it were with another girlfriend. But you are probably right that if other man pursued her romantically, she'd reciprocate. Fortunately, other man seems to be satisfied having a confidant and has not expressed interest in more than that. My fear is, as you stated, if she really is in denial and can't understand why her relationship with other man is so damaging to me, then her deep resentment would be the final straw in ending the marriage. I have been trying unsuccessfully for over a year to get her to see my viewpoint. It has taken a year just for her to get the idea that she is hurting me with her actions. I have expressed that a lot of my pain is from her sharing intimate thoughts with him and her GF instead of me. Of course, she denies sharing such things with him. If I opt to consider a compromise, I will include your suggestive conditions. A couple posts mentioned seeking professional counseling. That is exactly what I did a year ago when my NC request was not answered. I had hoped to use the MC to set her straight. But, at the time we started going, I did not have the insight into her behavior that I do now. I had seen nearly all her emails for the first year, Oct 2015 into Jan 2016, but her feelings were never directly expressed in that time period. There were lots of speaking in code and reading between the lines, but nothing that she wouldn't have plausible denial for. I only knew of a couple flat-out lies. X lied when she told me she did not email other man while she was visiting GF last November. So, I didn't have overwhelming evidence, and my wife had a host of seemingly heartfelt rationalizations which all had some degree of truth to them. Counseling really did more harm than good, and we have started a few times. As long as wife was not being open, there really was no point. I think our MC understands EAs reasonably well, but I'm not sure she has really worked with a lot of couples on resolving them. In the last month I have caught on to the FaceTime activities, have a few examples of bold-faced lies, and seen a small number of her emails for first time since January. With all of this new info, I have now erased my last percentage of doubts as to whether it is truly an affair as opposed to disrespect and a disagreement on boundaries. I think I may have finally convinced the MC. I met a couple weeks ago and revealed the FT activities. I go this week, wed, and have the recent emails to discuss. The emails are from a couple months ago, but I was only able to pull data from an iTunes backup while wife has been out of town this last week. Assuming MC buys in, my plan is to have wife go with me next week and have a no more secrets intervention. As suggested, I am hoping the MC can be the bad guy for me. I think my wife is not so far gone that she can't be brought back with help. We'll see. From reading my wife's emails, it is clear that she cares very, very deeply and thinks the world of other man. See example below. Definitely beyond what I am comfortable with for an sex friend. She recently left her email logged in for a couple weeks, and I was able to pick up on some clues. The recent emails were of a more personal and emotional content. She had recently told me the emails were maybe once a week but were in fact 3 to 4 per week. She acknowledges that she FaceTimes with other men, but lies about the frequency, which is almost every week these days according to my recently acquired VAR. She has always deleted her FT call history. Here is a quote from a recent email from my wife to other man in response to a disappointing turn of events in other man's dating life. As you are aware, there are a myriad of things I would like to give to you, most all of which are accompanied by a myriad of reasons I can't. But there is one gift nothing, not time, distance, or any situation, would stop me from bestowing if I could. The only thing that stops me is that lack of a magic wand. If I had that wand though, I would make your number one, whomever you decide that is, see you through my eyes. It would only take a moment and would only require a glimpse. I have 2 takeaways from this. My wife thinks that if any other woman saw other man the way my wife does, then the other woman would immediately fall for other man. This is probably the most convincing email snippet I have that shows that my wife has feelings for him beyond friendship. Also, worth noting that my wife is not planning on being his number one choice, like not planning to leave me for him. Do my interpretations seem fair? Here is our marital background. I am 40, she is 39. We have been married 19 years and have 2 kids, 10, 7. I work hard, 45 plus hours per week, and my wife stays home. Prior to kids, marriage was generally good and was at a high point right before our first child. But we have drifted apart since having kids. Usual culprits: busy with kids, stress from my work, no family support locally, limited opportunities for us time, and just generally not meeting each other's needs. Over the last year plus of research, I now understand that all of this is fixable, at least, once the emotional affair is gone. As it is now, our own issues plus the fight over the emotional affair have brought us to the brink of thinking of separation. We both want to work things out. Currently, I have a NC demand on the table. My wife countered with offering complete transparency. I can set the terms, as long as they can still keep in touch. She is out of town at the moment, and the ball is my court to decide whether any compromise is possible. Which brings me to my questions. Is it possible that she is really just in denial to herself that her friendship is out of bounds? Or does she know full well that she's in an affair? If she has really convinced herself that it isn't an affair, will a forced no contact result in deep resentment from her? Or will the fog lift and she'll eventually see the error of her ways? While her behavior toward me, secrets, lying, is clearly intolerable, is it worth trying the compromise approach first if she opens up all of her communication with other man? I don't see it being a viable solution long term, but is it worth considering as a short-term step? Certainly, my nice guy tendencies have not helped things, or even from a detached, logical point of view. Going to NC is a clear answer. But living within the relationship and facing the person you love can make it difficult to pull the trigger on something that will cause suffering. My wife is the sweet, caring type that one would never think could have an affair, if such a person actually existed. It is easier to believe that she's in denial than she is knowingly plotting against me. I am pretty sure that OM is not an NM. My wife is staying at her GF's house, and GF is a supporter of our marriage. While my wife has probably convinced her GF that she's not doing anything wrong, I doubt that GF would enable an illicit meeting. And I don't have any reason to think that other man is interested enough in a physical relationship to fly over for a few days where he'd have to share time. But one never knows. I have been using iCloud's Find My Phone to track my wife's whereabouts periodically. So far, she has been where she has supposed to be, which is mostly at the house. With respect to the other man, he is certainly not a friend of my marriage, but he hasn't been the pursuer of closeness that my wife has been. I really don't get his side of this besides having absolute support from my wife no matter what he does. Apparently, the woman in his office flocked to him for advice, etc. If I didn't know otherwise, I would think he is gay. In fact, his boss at work actually suggested it. As for my wife, her feelings are beyond friends, but I don't think physical interest is a driving factor for her. She is extremely attracted to him as a person, and any romantic, sexual interest that exists is a byproduct of that. Until recently, I just wasn't sure enough to go through with it. Thanks for all of the encouragement to do what I know has to be done. As for my wife's trip to New Mexico, she has been at her friend's house all week. I have been using iCloud Find My Phone app to verify her location. I have also texted with her friend and checked my wife's cell phone text, call log. Nothing out of the ordinary there. At this point, I don't doubt that my wife would be capable of a meeting, but I question whether her girlfriend would allow my wife to bring another man into the house with GF's kids around. Several things have been sinking in as I have had time to digest all of the advice. The above is really the bottom line. Emotional affair or not, lying or not, etc. It just comes down to what I'll accept in marriage. I do want a chance at having a good marriage again, and obviously other man can't be a part of that. Here are a few other details rattling around in my head. Based on what I've read in my wife's emails before the last couple months, it seems to me that my wife morphed her love for other man into a motherly, sisterly sort of interaction. She does truly care for his happiness, even without her, and I think she feels she's in control enough to not act out in a straightforward romantic way. While she has to know that what she is going is out of bounds, I think she has bought into her own lies. One of the biggest is that she feels like she believes she is not the type of person to have an affair, therefore she must not be having one. The comment about using indirect statements to let him know she's ready for him was enlightening. I hadn't thought of it that way. Whatever control she used for the first year plus seems to be slipping, and you will all say, of course it is. Here's the who is my wife's best friend history. Wife and girl from New Mexico have been best girlfriends, BFF, since they were 10. They have lived apart since 7th grade but have carried on with the same closeness ever since. I took over the best friend role once my wife and I were together, and GF was still a close supporter. However, after drifting apart over the years since having kids, it appears that my wife's innermost thoughts went more to GF than me. Of course, I didn't realize at the time. Then foreign exchange boy returns, and my wife pursues a best friend-like relationship. I wasn't meeting her conversational companionship needs at the time, and she found someone who filled them plentifully. He wasn't working while recovering from cancer and had broken off 12-year relationship. Two lonely spirits in need of each other. HMPH. She claims to view the activities as being just the same as if it were with another girlfriend, which is BS of course. I am number 3 at best these days, residing just outside her inner circle, though my wife claims otherwise when I say this. Other man hasn't GF replaced as best friend. He's her fantasy world confidant with whom she lives vicariously through his exuberance for life, and train wreck and dealing with people. She gets to act out a new self-identity that doesn't involve being wife, parent, etc. I think my wife understands to some extent that her relationship with other man is not based on reality. I don't think she is all the way gone, yet. I do not believe she would give up GF or myself for the other man. She might unwittingly destroy our marriage, which she has been doing a great job of, but I don't think it would be a conscious choice. I'll be testing that theory. Wife and I talked shortly before her trip. I don't know why it took so long, but she finally accepted that what she has been doing was severely hurting me. She is not okay with hurting me, but in her mind, she doesn't want to give up other man either. I gave her 3 choices: NC plus work on marriage of convenience for the kids, or divorce, and some time to think. Based on some comments she made the day after, it seemed like it sunk in that it was an obvious choice, like, give up her friend. But then she came up with her compromise idea. Her way of resolving rock versus hard place, I guess. BTW, I have decided that I am not going to accept the compromise. Though it may not have seemed like it, I am not really afraid of losing her. Ironically, I was the one that was more distant and dissatisfied before the EA started. Suffice to say that her emotional affair has not made her more attractive as a spouse. We are still very compatible and have the potential to regain a happy marriage, but she is far from ideal spouse at this stage in our lives. If it comes to it, I know that I can find someone else to be happy or happier with. What I do worry about is the kids. 7-year-old, my instinct to protect my kids makes it seem selfish to me to choose my own marital happiness over the kids' well-being. This is part of the reason that I have hesitated to force a resolution with my wife. So, the MC had to cancel again this week. Death in the family. It is down to just me. I am pretty certain that other man did not meet in New Mexico. I spoke and texted with wife's GF a couple times, checked up on cell phone records and cell phone location. Everything checks out. I would bet anything that wife spent time emailing other man and very likely FaceTimed as well. GF had to work several of the days, so my wife had free time during the day. I did a quick check on her iPad and iPhone this morning. She got home late night. She actually left her email logged in her phone. However, all of the emails from other man were no longer there. Her Safari history showed that she was searching for ways to export Yahoo Mail to her friend's MacBook. So, I'm guessing she managed to get the emails to a safe place for storage while also keeping them safe from my eyes. She was also working on exporting a playlist of songs that she wants to send to other man on a USB drive. I guess this is really all extraneous details. Pa or no pa really doesn't change my plans. Emotional affair and pa both end with an A. I am still looking for more advice on how to handle the NC or D conversation. Does it really not matter at this time whether she believes it is an affair or not? She is going to claim the following: I'm being controlling. Doesn't see why her emailing a friend should be a big deal. It's not losing the other man, but losing control over who she can share her thoughts with that hurts her. She just shares normal stuff, not deepest thoughts, with him. He's not threat to me. She doesn't lie about contact, etc. She won't understand how I can refute most of these things based on what she thinks I know. If I reveal evidence showing that she has lied and that her emotions for other men are more than as friends, like take away her plausible denial, will that help snap her out of her fog? Of course, her immediate reaction will be anger that I have snooped. If she really is in denial, she will be very angry with me when I make her choose. If she chooses NC, will she eventually become enlightened as to how damaging her behavior has been? Given the current downward path we're on already, I guess it is just worth the risk. She knows what she is doing and is just lying to keep the emotional affair going. I suppose a part of me has thought this all along. It is one thing for her to lie that she didn't email, FaceTime when asked about a specific instance, but I have been reluctant to accept that she is just fabricating reasons, excuses, to intentionally manipulate me. Her pain and offense at my actions seem heartfelt. Has she really just gotten that good at acting hurt? Amazing what an emotional affair can do to someone who previously didn't have a deceptive bone in her body. For me, if I know that she really is just lying through her teeth, then it is easier to go forward with a harder stance. To clarify, my wife's story is that she admitted to other men that their relationship was causing marital issues. While my wife had previously acknowledged issues to other men, she had just told other men that the problems were due to personal issues of mine. Her story now is that other man doesn't want to cause a problem and hasn't been in contact since. That's her claim. Could just mean that she is now using a different email address. While I see the value in having the NC letter not be private, I'm not sure of the real damage of doing it privately beyond there being less immediate assurance that she is actually going to NC. I figure that there is some value in letting feel like she wins at least 1 point, and I can understand her wanting to have some closure. If she just wants to take it underground, I will catch it anyway. If she is planning on leaving, well, I guess that is her choice and she would have done it eventually anyway. Am I missing something? I do not have any means of contacting anyone that could influence other men. Really, he hasn't been the pursuer in this and has plenty of other options without my wife being involved with him. Not sure what benefit he gets from the emails besides having someone that pays a lot of attention to him and believes he's a saint no matter what games he plays with other people. After the confrontation last night ended at 11:30 p.m., my wife left the house for a couple hours, which is her typical response after a fight. Turns out she talked to her GF for 1 hour. This morning, she was once again questioning whether I really wanted to go forward without any room for compromise and was claiming that we won't have a future because she'll have no place to write and work through her own private thoughts. Can't write on paper or electronically for fear of me reading it. I pointed out that this wasn't an issue for the previous 15 years, and she never kept a diary, journal during all that time. In any case, sounds like the chat with GF did not help provide any reality to the situation. Some more questions. How long should I expect her to be really pissed? Right now, she is in no way taking responsibility for her actions and is off in her own version of reality. How long will it take for her to start owning up to having strayed from the marriage? Will she ever? I don't see a real way forward until this happens. Will this take months? The two people closest to my wife, besides OM, are her mother and her GF in New Mexico. Do I approach them for support? I am sure that my wife has them convinced that other man is not threat and that they are just friends. I could reveal what I know and expose what has been going on. But I did not reveal my evidence, or the sources, to my wife, so I don't think I can expose the details to others without it getting back to my wife as well. While my wife's is a serious emotional affair, I still don't view in the same extreme as a lot of other emotional affair stories I've read. Are there degrees of emotional affairs? Does it even matter? The solution, NC, is the same regardless, right? Until she can truly commit to you in the marriage, the resentment she feels toward you ending her fantasy with other man will taint the marriage. Click to expand. She was exceedingly adamant about having a private goodbye. While she seemed to be willing, with extreme resentment, to go along with NC, she indicated that she would choose option B, divorce, over losing control of how she ends things. Right now, I think I'll be the monster regardless of how she cuts off contact. So, how do I get her to see the light? Arguing my perspective hasn't made a dent for more than a year. MC didn't help. I don't think she'll change her version of reality while she is still in contact with other men. If her version of reality says she's not doing anything wrong, then we will be completely torn apart long before the fog is lifted. This sounds hopeless. Is her demand to have a private goodbye really such a definitive statement on her opinion of our marriage, and her intentions of further wrongdoing? Yes, I didn't read enough into it at the time and blew that one. After thinking about it, there is obviously no rational reason for her to need a private farewell if she really is going to NC. As I review what happened, I now see how an ultimatum was sent my way, and I gave in. Not much progress today. She went to bed before I was finished helping my daughter with her science fair project. All I got out of her was that she says she sent a short email to other man asking if he is interested in speaking to her about the situation, or if his silence over the last 2 weeks is his answer. Obviously, not putting much faith into anything she tells me right now. She also made sure to mention her demand for privacy on how she handles this. Unfortunately, I didn't even get to confront before one of our kids came in the room. We will see what tomorrow brings. In what my VAR records, the concept of taking a harder stance, not giving an inch, looking out for myself, taking control, being ready to use the divorce card, is sinking in. I admittedly suffer from nice guy syndrome. I took the assessment today and failed miserably. I realized that I should have been much angrier a long time ago. Being very conflict avoidant, I did not bring up the discoveries I made. My plan was to gather convincing evidence that the relationship was an emotional affair and then confront her. Now that it is finally staring me in the face, I am still slow to react appropriately. I guess I was still trying to avoid the confrontation where I have to face my wife's anger from my snooping. Knowing her betrayal is one thing different from truly accepting of the deception that she is capable of right now. When I read other stories, it is easy to grasp the wayward's behaviors. I have just had a hard time being with her and accepting the truth. I believe I am past that now. Tonight's conversation, or confrontation, should be telling. My wife did, almost, show a little ownership this morning. My wife is hypersensitive to my level of approval towards her. She started to get upset when I wasn't acting normal this morning. She indicated that she was feeling angry at several things, mad at herself as she acknowledged that she did this to us, trying to decide if she hates herself for it, mad that she has caused me pain, grieving the loss of a friend, etc. We'll see how she reacts tonight. My wife agreed Sunday night that she would go to NC, but she has not done so yet. I did not get as far as setting a deadline for NC letter. Obviously, the no NC chat is not at all a NC arrangement. I have debated just showing her what I know. The advice in here has been mixed on doing that. I don't see how she can rationalize her magic wand quote, so perhaps confronting with this letter would help speed up the process of defogging. I believe I could also use the same info to sway her GF, mom, of what is going on. Or maybe this is all irrelevant and I just need to force the NC letter and go from there. She can either meet my terms or leave. Turns out while she was in New Mexico, she forwarded all of her emails from other man to a new account which supposedly only her GF has password to. This was after she failed to copy them to a USB drive. So, once she gives me her passwords, I won't be able to go back see all that she has been up. Somehow she was expecting me to be glad that her emails were gone. Yay, I am really happy about another dishonest move on her part. Storing away the previous emails is BS. I think my wife had 2 reasons for this. 1, she accepts that I will have her passwords and she wants to limit the damage by keeping me from going back and reading her email. Rug sweeping alert. 2nd, I think the correspondence is indeed precious to her and she is not ready to wash away the connection. Back in May 11th, I found the printouts she had made from the first month or so of emails exchanged with other man, which occurred in Oct 2015. The emails were put in the bottom of a drawer under some clothes out of view but not seriously hidden. My wife's explanations at the time included she didn't trust the webmail and didn't want to risk losing the emails, and that she was, at one point, in pleasant disbelief that other man was back in her life after a 15-year hiatus. So, she has shown the tendency to cling to record of letters to other man. In fact, now that I think about it, I remember her wanting to back up the few emails from other man back in the mid-90s when we had just been married a couple years and email was a new thing. I am not sure of the BF's role at this point. I do not know what my wife has told her, and I don't know whether BF has read many of the emails. I have felt that BF was an enabler to some extent, but I am not sure if she is all in on the whole deal. I have no doubt that BF would provide login info to my wife if requested. My wife even acknowledged this much. What I will have to determine is whether the new account is just for storage, if my wife attempts to start using it some point. At some point, I'll have to deal with the existence of this account. There is 0 chance that BF will be removed from the picture. They have been BFFs for a very long time, and I know my wife will not even consider it an option. Even if BF is an enabler, she is not the cause of the problem. My wife is going to need a girlfriend to help work through things, and it will still be a while before she's ready to use me as a confidant again. The discovery of the new email account, this info was volunteered by my wife. On Thanksgiving she admitted to deleting the emails and that she planned to keep her email logged in, instead of deleting the account every time she was done. I knew that there was more to it as I saw her Safari history showing searches for saving emails to disk. I hadn't said anything about it, but she acknowledged on her own a day or 2 later that she forwarded the emails. And clearly, she has to know it's not all innocent if she goes through the effort to hide the written evidence. My comment, she'll have to get rid of her enabling best friend if she moves forward in her reconciliation with you. That's part of her consequences for getting her best friend involved with her deceit. BTW, never reveal your source. She's already going deeper underground. For X, forwarding, saving her emails to the OM, you need all your monitoring options to stay on top. Part 2 will come shortly today as well. Let me grab a quick bite and see you in part 2.